Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer live from the United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia. I am lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Alec McPherson from Regis University up in Massachusetts. Welcome, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me. Regis College.
Regis College. Sorry.
No,
don't want to wrinkle anybody's feathers there.
Well, there's Regis University in Colorado. We get it all the time. We get it all the time.
Yeah, well, it's like there's probably 100 St. Mary's and 50 Trinities, and yeah, it's hard. So my apologies. Yes, Regis College. Well, Coach, you're brand new to the program, less than I guess about 6 months now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you had the unfortunate, or shall we say, time to try to start coaching a program in July, which is what happened to me when I took over my first program. So it's tough to do any recruiting when you're starting that late. But I'm guessing here during high recruitment season, showcase season, you're getting hot and heavy. So when is it that you are really starting to focus? I guess, sorry, let me ask that a different way. It's January. Are you still closing out your 23s? Are you focusing on 24s? About how much in advance are you usually recruiting?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here and the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing up at Regis. So, joining the program late had a knock-on effect with our 23 class, just a little late to the table. So we're closing that out. Our application deadline is actually at the end of this month, so we should be finalising our class hopefully in the next few weeks. But really, the beauty about Division 3 is you can recruit anyone, so we're always looking regardless of class. Obviously we're prioritising finishing our 23 class, but we're deep into our 24 evaluations, starting to do our visits and stuff, so we're making some good progress, but I'm a little bit behind where I would like our program to be, but that's just because of the timing of when I transitioned into the program. So we'll catch up with our 24 class.
Okay. Well, this being prime recruiting season, if you will, how many inbound communications would you say you get in a typical week or month of interested players?
That's a good question. I mean, it kind of ebbs and flows in conjunction with showcases and stuff. Not as many as I'd like is the short answer, I guess. But previous schools, especially when I was working Division 1, it's nowhere near the volume that we used to get there. But that's part of the reason why I'm doing this, is trying to get our name out there a little bit more and educate people on what we have to offer, so we can increase the amount of inquiries that we get. But it can range from, we don't hear anything for a few days from anyone, but then like the next few days we'll get 50 to 100 emails, whatever it may be. So it can be pretty intense.
Yeah, well, after you've gotten communications and they're saying, hey, come see me play, where are those places that you like to go to really see talent? What tournaments are kind of the must-hit list for you?
So I'm a big advocate of I love finding a diamond in the rough. So I don't like to leave any stone unturned if we can. Obviously there's budget restrictions that don't allow us to get to everything that we like to get to, but we really focus on geographic areas. So we're looking at, we're up in New England, so we've got some really good soccer. So locally it's pretty straightforward. There's key events that we go to, big Thanksgiving showcase, the preseason stuff in March. But then it's hitting New Jersey for Memorial Day, going to the ECNL event there. That's always a huge one because you get those New Jersey, New York kids. And then it's getting California, Arizona, Texas, where there's such a high quality and volume of talent. Florida as well, the states where players can play year round. And I think there's a lot of value, especially from the West Coast, in the Northeast, the quality of education that you can get. So we're having a lot of success with that. And like I said, I'm not really hung up on labels. I don't care if you play for an ECNL team or a Girls Academy team, or if you're just like in your more local or regional level league. We'll come see you play, because I think there's quality everywhere to be found. So we try our hardest to see as many people as we can.
No, that's great. Well, how about camps? Do you guys run your own camps? Do you or your staff work other people's camps? Do the camps fit at all into your kind of recruiting mix?
For sure. I'm not sure how the program previously operated with camps, but I'm a big advocate of both internal and external opportunities for evaluation. So we ran our first one-day clinic this fall, which was incredibly successful. I think from our attendance at that program, we ended up offering half a dozen spots for our program. So it's definitely a recruitment thing that we use it for. It's not like a fundraising opportunity. Obviously that helps, if you need little bits and bobs for practice and whatnot. But we also work external camps. So actually we've got one on Monday up in New Hampshire that we'll be doing. We jump on the exact camps and things like that when our schedule allows. But again, it's really that same kind of approach to just taking every single opportunity we have to see and evaluate players. And if we can be there, we will be.
Now, one of the big changes to the college soccer landscape over the last few years, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger, is the transfer portal. And I know you've got Division I experience, and is that something you guys are looking at from a Division III level at all, or does that not really come into play very much?
I probably go on the transfer portal every day at the moment, to be honest. And again, it's really, it's a lot of kind of just throwing it out there and hoping something sticks. And our success rate on the transfer portal's not great. For every 15, 20 emails we send, we may get one reply. That being said, it's just another opportunity to introduce people to what we can have to offer. We've got a couple of potential transfers coming in. Actually, because of the dynamic of our roster, it's going to help us. We're going to be very young next year, so adding players that already have experience and maybe some leadership qualities is hugely important to what we're trying to do. So we're all over it.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, whether you're at a tournament or a camp or anything like that, what is your kind of hierarchy of things that you're looking for? What really makes a player, that you want to offer to over there at Regis College?
I get asked this question a lot when I speak with recruits, and the one word I always use is courage. The way that we're trying to play the game with our program is, it doesn't matter if it didn't work out the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time. If you want the ball and you're still have the confidence to just give me the ball, I'm still going to try and solve that problem. That really works well with what we're trying to do, and especially in different parts of the field. We don't want players who are just going to play percentages and kick the ball long because they're in a tight area or a dangerous area. Like I said, we want that courage. Give me this ball in this tough spot. I'm going to find the solution that we need. So that's really what we try and identify. That mindset more than anything else, because that's really going to align with what we're trying to do. No,
that's fantastic. Well, you mentioned lot of nice small Division III schools up there in Massachusetts. And a lot of those tend to carry a fairly heavy price tag for parents. I got a daughter in high school. We're starting to look at that kind of stuff, and so I'm not holding you to any hard numbers here, but can you just give me an overview of what what it costs to go there, what the financial aid situation is with the academic scholarships and other ways to help offset those things for anybody who might be interested?
For sure. I've worked at several colleges, and most recently I was actually at a private high school that carried an insanely hefty price tag to attend. And as someone who grew up in the UK, it's something that culturally I really struggle to deal with. So it's definitely a challenge. One of the things that I think is a best kept secret about Regis specifically is the academic merit awards are off the charts. So if you are a stellar student, tuition's going to get wiped in half before you even, inquire. Really, it's like there's guaranteed academic merit, which is great. And then you couple that with financial aid. The average, our admissions guy told us the other day, I think the average contribution that the average discount, that our students get is like 60% off the sticker price.
Wow, okay.
So the sticker price is it's eye-watering, but then when all things considered, it's actually super competitive. We also have a series of scholarships, which I am leveraging like crazy. And so we've got a couple of girls coming in that are eligible for full rides, which is great. So while we don't have the control of D2 and D1 have with athletic scholarships, we can also what I'm trying to do is identify student athletes that align with the criteria for the scholarships we have, so that we can push our girls to get a really good return on their investment for their education.
No, that's fantastic. Well, and let's talk more about the school itself. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who aren't familiar with Regis College. I mean, I'm down in Florida. We don't have a single Division III school in the state, so I always love talking to D3 programs. But so you've been there 6 months now, so give me what has surprised you? What are some of the awesome things about the school that our listeners may not know just by looking at the website?
Well, the things that have the things that have really caught me by surprise, as someone who's lived in Massachusetts for over a decade now, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I wasn't super aware of some of the hidden gems that we have on our campus, in terms of we have national level health science programs. So some of and they're super specific, some of the offerings that we have. So we're very driven by medical sciences, nursing, and for example, we're number one in the country for sonography.
I don't even know what that is.
Well, I had to look it up as well. So, if you are interested in a very specific area of medical science, we might be one of the best programs around for that. It's very niche. It's not as super generic programs. They don't have great, huge enrollment, but the quality of education is incredibly high. Also, the proximity to Boston, we're 12 miles from the city, allows us to have fantastic relationships with some fantastic medical institutions. So if you are interested in sonography or nursing or whatever it may be, one of our seniors is I forget what she studied, nuclear science. Anyway, she's doing something that is I can't even understand. But the relationships we have with those institutions presents just fantastic professional development opportunities. So it's I'd say the best kept secret is really just the quality of the academic experience is crazy. Plus, we're 12 miles from the city, but we're in a very small town called Weston, which is a very affluent suburb. So it's pretty quiet. There's not a lot going on, which is great. But if you want to head into the city, it's super easy to get downtown. You want to go get dinner and stuff, so you get the best of both worlds. So you can be in the middle of the city in 20 minutes, or if you want to hang out on campus and chill out, you can do both, which I think is nice to have that balance.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you mentioned the academics, so for your student athletes, how do they really balance the pull between their sport commitments and their academic studies?
One thing that I've always valued is making life as simple for them as possible. So we split the day up into two. We run it more like a high school schedule, where the first part of the day is all academic. From their first class to their last, we don't even get involved in their day. We let them be students, but then they switch gears, and then we're completely athletic. For that afternoon period once classes are done. And I think what that allows our students to do is invest 100% into both things. So we're not bouncing around from one to the other. We're not distracting them from either. And we like to do all of our soccer stuff in like a 2-hour block. So if we have film or lift and practice, we do them back to back, so that they also have time to socialize and study, in the evening as well. And I thought it was really successful. The girls gave us some great feedback on that kind of schedule that we built this past fall, and it just allows them to, like I said, be all in both athletics and academics separately.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. And one of the things I know folks are interested in, and we like to ask everybody, is kind of give me that. What does an average week look like during the season in terms of, when are the meals, classes, practice, or if it's a game day, what does that look like? And just kind of a rough idea of a during season week.
Well, the one thing that I prioritized when I came in the summer was, I'm a big fan of consistency. So every Monday looks the same through the whole season, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Friday, so that there's no energy invested in, where are we today? Like, what time is this? That consistency was huge, and again, we got great feedback from the players about that. So that was priority number one. So for that, we had to sacrifice a little bit. So we take the late slot on the turf, we share it with field hockey and men's soccer, and the late slot, on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays is 6 o'clock, so that's when we practice. A little bit later than I think I would like, it'd be nice to be home for dinner and stuff, but at the same time, that consistency was the absolute priority. We lift every Monday and Thursday, we do film every Tuesday and Friday, in preparation for our games, which are every Wednesday and Saturday. The fun thing about the Northeast, we already referenced it, right? There's a lot of D3 schools, so we're in a conference that this season will have 17 teams.
Oh wow!
So 16 conference games, which I really enjoy because I like the intensity of it. You've got to be on every game. There's no off days. There's no free hits, and we play Wednesday, Saturday, and of course, depending on the schedule, the furthest we travel is 3 hours. So we don't do any overnights, which I think is a benefit as well, because our athletes always sleep in their own bed. We're not on the bus like crazy. They don't have to study on the bus. Some of them do, of course, as very astute student athletes, but we're not driving all over the country as well, which I think is a huge benefit.
Yeah, no, I mean everything under 3 hours. That's an amazing college travel schedule.
Yeah.
Not many schools are lucky to have that. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team and the soccer side of things. We talked about recruiting before, but is there a roster size that you find is ideal that you're going to try to hit every year?
Yeah, so I put a lot of thought into this. As I've worked at different colleges. I've learned different things with each experience. I think if I could design a roster from scratch and it would be perfect, I'd go for a roster size of 28 with 3 goalkeepers. So you've got 2 field players for every position with a few backups or versatile players in there, so that everyone has the opportunity to contribute. They don't feel like they're too far from the field, but you also have that depth that can handle the robustness of a complete season. So that's what that's what we're aiming for. We were under that this season. I inherited a roster of 22, so we've got some work to do. But I think that we're going to get there pretty quickly.
You mentioned the roster size, but what about your staff? How many staff do you have? What roles does everybody play there?
So it's a pretty unique situation at Regis how the athletic department works. So every sport has a graduate assistant coach. So we have a full-time assistant technically, which is a privilege at Division 3. That's not always the case. We do some fundraising to get a part-time goalkeeping coach, and she joined us this fall. It's actually a player I coached in club, and during her college career as well, she played on my summer league teams. So that was really fun to work with someone who I've known for a long time, and she came in and did a fantastic job for us. And then I was a volunteer coach at one point. I was also a grad assistant, so I like to offer the opportunities to people to get into the game, understand how it works. So we like to carry a staff of 4, which again we're pretty privileged to be able to do that at the Division 3 level. We work to make that happen, but it really provides the kind of experience that I would like our athletes to have.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. A lot of, I mean, even when I was a D3 or D2 coach, the women's head coach was my assistant, and I was his assistant, and that was the best we got.
Right.
So that's amazing. What do you guys use any sort of technology in terms of? Well, you mentioned game film, so you're recording stuff, but are you recording practices? Do you use any of the GPS monitors? The one thing I'll say is, having walked the floor of the exhibit hall last night here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention, it seems as if any sort of data analysis, GPS tracking, and everything else like that, there's got to be 100 different booths in there right now, so it seems like that's the wave everybody's going. Are you guys using any of that as of now?
So our conference uses Huddle. We pay for a level of package that does the game breakdowns for us. It's just super efficient. I actually really enjoy using Huddle because when we upload our game footage, I know that usually within 12 hours it'll come back broken down with statistics, and that data we use to drive our training. We have 4 key performance indicators we have 4 vertical zones in the field, and we use the Huddle data to determine if we're being successful in meeting those KPIs. We hit 3 out of 4 in the fall, which was pretty good. But that is the extent of technology that we use. That is probably the biggest difference, is that the resources, the Division 3 level, don't allow us to have the GPS monitors and tracking the players in a more physical way in terms of the demands. It's something that I would like us to get to, but for us, that's a luxury.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, but even the huddle stuff, that's more than what some other schools get. So I think that's awesome that you guys are doing that. Well, you've been there one season, but how would you describe kind of your style of coaching and the team style of play that you guys are trying to enact over there?
So my style of coaching is evolving. I learned some harsh lessons this year. It was my first year as a head coach. I've been an assistant coach at various different programs and learned a lot from my previous head coaches. But when you're the person calling the shots, I definitely got some stuff wrong. One thing that I always I like to lead with humility. So I'm the first person to put my hands up and I dropped the ball there. And I think that our athletes appreciate that. However, what we're really trying to install is the way I like to describe it is we like to play with intent. We talked a little bit before we started recording. I'm not a kind of guy that likes to play the percentages. I like to be in control of what we're doing. So we have the 4 KPIs, which we break the field down into 4 horizontal zones. And what we try and train very specifically how we can achieve our KPI in that specific area of the field. So ultimately, we like to carry the ball through the zones to be able to create really high quality goal scoring chances. And that's one of the things that we talked about as a team is it's not about quantity. You can take 100 shots from 50 yards and you've had 100 shots, but you might get lucky with one, whereas we want to create goal scoring opportunities in a very specific area of the field, and so we train how can we get the ball into that area of the field. So it's very intentional, and that's how we like to play. We do outpossess most of our opponents, which I was pretty pleased with in year one. And I have to give credit to the student athletes that they really embraced it. I feel very thankful that when there's a coaching transition, it can be tough. There can be resistance, different styles, allegiances, really tight relationships with the previous staff, etc. Any of these things could happen, but our student athletes really embraced it. And like I said, we hit 3 out of our 4. We broke some program records this year, which is kind of crazy to think. We set a pretty high bar for year 2, but I'm very excited about the foundation that we've laid and what we can achieve moving forward.
No, that's awesome. Well, as we mentioned, obviously it's January, so I don't know if your kids are back in school yet or not, or they're getting ready to be.
Tuesday,
okay.
Yeah,
all right.
They'll be back.
So what does your, in your first year, what do you have planned for this off season, the spring season for your team?
Well, one of the reasons that Division 3 really aligns with how I like to have an impact with our student athletes is that it presents a lot of opportunities. So we have multi-sport athletes at Division 3, so we lose a couple of our girls who are playing lacrosse or on the track and field team, which we really encourage. We want people to get the most out of their time at Regis College the way I want it to be the best 4 years of their life. And I don't want to prevent them from being able to pursue stuff. So we have players that study abroad, so we lose them for the spring. So this spring, because our roster is a little bit smaller than I'd like, is going to be pretty light on numbers. So we're going to focus on super technical stuff, technical development. We're going to have a pretty big class coming in, so there's not a lot of emphasis on kind of tactical approach because we're just going to have to go through it again anyway. And ultimately, like I said, we're prioritizing just creating a really stellar student-athlete experience. We want them to, we want, like I said, be the best 4 years of their life. So that's what we're going to try and do. We always have some fun stuff. I like to invite guest speakers to come in. So we had Christine Lilly come in during pre-season. Luckily, she's local, and I'd done some stuff with her previously. But players like hearing from her. Obviously, she's got quite the resume. And of course, I think it's always nice to hear from a different voice as well. So we're trying to get some guest speakers in the spring as well, to share their experience and hopefully, influence and maybe inspire our girls a little bit.
No, that's awesome. Well, you mentioned you got some girls there that are multi-sport athletes, which is awesome. And I know my daughter keeps asking, she wants to keep trying things and other things. And a question that comes up fairly often, I think, on some of the social media channels and things is about students who are playing multiple sports versus specializing early and that kind of thing. In your recruiting, do you look at a player who is a multi-sport athlete different than somebody who's only a soccer player or not?
That's a good question. I've never really thought about it. I think I look at them different, but not in a negative way.
Sure.
You know, like if someone isn't a multi-sport athlete, I don't think that's a negative thing either. But the one that has the most correlation, I think, is track and field. So if you get a short distance runner, a sprinter, that's really going to help, especially with the way that we're trying to penetrate through our opposition's defensive line. If we have some speed, that's going to be a benefit for sure. And I remember hearing Abby Wambach talk about this, and she said that, you know, she played basketball, which I'm sure her athletic stature lent itself very well to that, but she learnt the timing of jumping and to meet a header through playing basketball. So I think there's so many transferable skills from different sports. At the private high school I worked at, there was a big ice hockey school, and so like it's a pretty tenacious sport, and I really value the way in which hockey players learn how to use their frame and the confidence they have in using their frame, which I think again lends itself well to soccer and protecting and winning the ball. So I think there's so many transferable skills. So I see it as a benefit. I wouldn't say like if someone doesn't play a sport, a second sport, we're not going to look at them, of course.
Right.
Because, but if someone does, it also, if you have two coaches recruiting you, I think that also helps as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, the way I usually like to end these is, we've covered a lot of ground and talked a lot about different things, but what didn't we talk about? What else? What else would you like folks to know? Whether it's about the college recruiting process, about your school, or anything else in general? I'll give you the last word.
Well, I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. Like I said, I've been in Massachusetts for over a decade, and I feel like Regis is a little bit like this best kept secret. It's pretty competitive. You know, there's a lot of Division III options, and some of the schools academically are through the roof. You know, like Babson's down the street, so like a fantastic business school. Tufts isn't too far away, fantastic school. And I don't think that Regis has the reputation that it necessarily deserves. Especially academically. I think we have some really fantastic programs and opportunities that we can provide. And I'm, out here beating the drum. I think I hope every coach backs themselves to be able to move the program forward. And we're definitely in a growth phase. So the recruits I speak to right now is like, this is the best time to join us, because in 3 or 4 years we're hoping to be a little bit more set. A lot of hard work, and we're hoping that that pays off, and we're a little bit closer to where we want to be. But right now we're growing, so there's opportunities to get on the field right away. I'm not one of those that is going to prioritize upperclassmen. If you're good enough, you'll play, and that's always going to be my approach. So I feel like something very exciting is going to happen with our program, or I hope anyway. I'm working hard to make that happen. So it's like such a great time to come check out the school, because I think people will be really pleasantly surprised in what we have to offer.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Coach, I'm super excited you made time for us here in Philadelphia, and if you get down to any of the ECNL events in Florida and in the Bradenton area, give me a shout. We'll grab a cup of coffee and watch some games together, all right?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.